The winning blueprint presents.
In the lab room.
The weekend.
The weekend that was.
Slate skating, with slate skating, with slate skating, with slate skating.
And we move on to the Seattle Seahawks traveling to Carolina to take on the Carolina Panthers. And what I knew was going to be a defensive struggle, but I had no idea it was going to be as ugly as it was. And when I was thinking defensive struggle, I was thinking 20-17, maybe 23-20. It'd be ugly, but it was going to be someone was going to make it to 20. That's what I was under the impression of coming into this game. But I was wrong. This was a very ugly game. Cam Newton, I thought, gained confidence a week ago. He regressed right back into the same Cam Newton. As if I'm starting to believe that mentally the makeup isn't there with Cam Newton. I think when things are going right, he's as good as there is in the league in terms of making plays, making things happen, helping his team win football games. When things start to go bad, and they're not all the way there yet, they're just starting to go bad, he starts to drop his head, things start to snowball, it gets worse, and he starts to play worse. Early in this game, he had a couple of opportunities to complete some passes, kind of get a little bit of rhythm. It didn't happen. Guys dropped the football. He didn't make the best of throws. Whatever the case was, it didn't happen. And you could see he was starting to get down. His play was starting to be affected. And I think teams know this about him now. Keep him in the pocket. Don't allow him to make plays. Don't allow him to scramble and use his legs. Make him beat you with his arm. Force him into some errant throws. Make him make a few mistakes. And you got him. Because mentally, he's going to check out. He's going to start blaming himself. Start blaming teammates in his mind. And he's going to start making mistakes and making bad, throws and not making the type of plays that we saw from him a year ago. And this Seahawks defense is really good. I've already stated that many, many times before. This is a really good Seattle Seahawks defense. I'm going to tell you what. I'm going on the record right now. They're going to be a top 3 defense when this season's all done. That's how good the Seattle Seahawks defense is. Top 3. So, Cam Newton starts off so unimpressive in this game, it's not funny. I'm talking about in the first half, he was 3 of 15 passing. Ouch. Yikes. Meanwhile, Russell Wilson was steady. Again, I don't think he's ever going to wow you with his numbers. Don't think he's ever going to wow you with his play. What he is going to do is keep his team in ball games. He's going to make mistakes here and there. That's what he's going to do because he's a rookie quarterback. But he's going to keep his team in ball games. When a pass is there to be made, he's going to make it. If yards are there to be gained on the ground with his legs, he's going to get them. And he's going to have his fair share of turnovers and missed opportunities. But if it's a layup, he's going to make that layup. Now, if he has to make a 3, might hit front iron and miss. But if it's a layup, if it's McCoy or Miller down the middle wide open on a seam route, he's not going to miss that. That's a layup for him. He's not going to miss that pass. If Golden Tate is running a slant and he's open, he's going to hit him. Where he's going to struggle is if someone's running a 14-yard out to the far sideline. He's going to struggle there. That's where he's going to get picked off. That's when he's going to make an errant throw. That's when trouble starts for him, when it's a tough throw. And so he was steady. Cam Newton was sporadic and erratic in this football game early on, and that was the difference in the first half. Seahawks had a lead. Again, an ugly game. Field goals were the theme in this game up until Russell Wilson made an ill-advised throw out to the far side of the field. Couldn't get it out there with enough arm strength. Didn't anticipate it well enough. And he threw it to the inside. A pass that needed to be on the outside to be completed. Picked off by Captain Munnerlyn and ran in for a touchdown into the end zone. And just like that, the Panthers, who had not led all game, who had not played good up until that point in the football game, were on top. 10-6. And again, the defense for both teams were playing outstanding in this game. Thought that the Seahawks would be able to take a little bit more advantage of the Panthers defense than the Panthers would the Seahawks defense, because the Seahawks defense is just better. And so I thought that the Seahawks would be able to do a little bit on the ground with Marshawn Lynch. And they were, but nothing extravagant, nothing where you were like, okay, they can definitely hand the ball off to Marshawn Lynch and get 6 yards. It wasn't that type of game. He would get a good carry here, good carry there, then they would, bottle him up. And so he had a solid game, did Lynch, and he carried them down the stretch when they needed, tough yards, when they needed first downs. They went to Marshawn Lynch and he delivered. I thought that their rookie linebacker, that of the Carolina Panthers, Luke Kuechly, he's everywhere. He was everywhere in this football game. He was doing it all. I mean, forcing fumbles, on every tackle. He was just all over the place. He was a machine in this game. He's a bright spot for that Panthers defense. The Panthers just need to be more consistent on the offensive end. And until they get that consistency that they had a year ago, they won't scare anybody on the offensive end. Cam Newton doesn't have his confidence right now. I'll give you a prime example of what I'm alluding to. Late in this ball game, Panthers down 6, I believe, 16-10. They go for it on 4th and 1. They get down the field. Newton takes them on a drive. Made a bad pass to Brandon LaFell, who goes up, climbs the ladder, pulls it down, gets to about the 7-yard line. They end up getting down to about the 2. Cam, he tries a quarterback draw, doesn't make it. He gets down to about the 2-yard line. Then they try a pass that's incomplete. Then they try a run, I want to say, and it doesn't work. So it's 4th and 1. 4th and 1, 4th and 2, whatever. They do a rollout with Cam. He's buying time. Finally, he finds and spots, Ben Hartsock wide open in the end zone. Simple throw for him. He's rolling to the right, so he should be able to get more than enough on this. Not really throwing across his body. I mean, of course, it was back across his body, but he's going to his right. He should be able to get more than enough mustard on this football to get it in there and score the go-ahead touchdown. Instead, he short arms it and literally pulls the string on it. I have no idea what was going on in his mind. I have no idea what was going on with his mechanics. I can't answer any of those questions. All I know is the ball landed about 3 yards short of its intended target. No pressure on him whatsoever. There was no need for that pass to not be delivered on time, on target. And they lose the football game. I just don't know what's going on with Cam Newton right now. And I think it's probably mentally. I think it's just mental. It's all up here in his head. He's getting down on himself. He's getting down on teammates. And he's not making plays. And he's going to have to correct that if he's going to be the quarterback that we saw a year ago. He's really going through a true sophomore slump right now. And so the Seattle Seahawks go on the road in a tough, hard-fought ball game, defensive struggle, and play enough defense to get it done, 16-12 on the road against the Carolina Panthers, taking their record to 3-2 on the season, and dropping the Carolina Panthers to 1-4 on the season. And don't look now, but the Seattle Seahawks are in second place in the NFC West, right behind the 4-1 Cardinals, right behind the 4-1 49ers. And so that division is shaping up to be very interesting out in the NFC West. Meanwhile, the Panthers, who are in the midst of a terrible 3-game skid, dropped to 1-4, and that whole division is abysmal. Outside of the Falcons, who are 5-0, we're talking about the second place 1-3 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the 2 third-place teams tied for third or last, wherever way you want to categorize it. I much rather say tied for last because they're both 1-4. But you got the 1-4 Panthers and the 1-4 New Orleans Saints. And so that, my friend, is an ugly division. One that looked to be a strength coming into this season. Panthers talking about going to the Super Bowl. You know, the Saints really had a bad taste in their mouth after, you know, that loss they had a year ago in the playoffs to the 49ers, having Bounty Gate over the offseason. You thought they were going to come out and play inspired football. Direct opposite. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you can expect them to have a 1-3 mark at this point. New head coach, new philosophy, a lot of things going on in Tampa Bay, a lot of moving parts. So their 1-3 start is justifiable. Everyone else, very disappointing to say the least. So that whole division right now is disappointing in itself, except for the Falcons, who are 5-0 and unquestionably the best team in that division, are going to win that division. And coming into this season, you had to be thinking 2 teams were coming out of this division, if not 3. I was sold on 2. I wasn't sold on the Panthers. But I was sold on the Saints and the Falcons. Now it's just looking like the Falcons are coming out of this division. And so the Panthers drop to 1-4. Seahawks get a big win on the road, go to 3-2. And now they're right in the thick of things in the NFC West. As we move on, the Chicago Bears traveled to Jacksonville to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. And this was a game on the slate that I had said in the preview that I thought was going to go exactly as I depicted. And it went exactly as I predicted. I depicted the Bears to come out in this football game, hung over from a big victory on Monday, and just sleepwalk through the first half and really sleepwalk through the first 3 quarters. I said in the preview that the Bears were going to let Jacksonville hang around, think they have a chance to win. Going into the 3rd quarter, this game was going to be a 1-score football game. I was close. That was the only thing I was wrong about. The Bears were up 13-3 going into the 4th quarter. But I said that they were going to be close. The Jaguars were going to have a false sense of hope. And in the 4th quarter, the Bears were going to wake up, realize, we're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. What are we doing? And they were going to blow them out. Now, did I see them compiling 40 points in this football game? No. But did I see them putting the Jacksonville Jaguars away late? Yes. This Chicago Bears team can make you furious at times. Because I knew they were going to do this. It was as if I wrote the script to this game. Because I saw this coming. This is what the Bears do. Just like I said for the Giants. Luckily enough for the Chicago Bears, they were playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. Had they been playing the Browns in this game, maybe, they might have lost this game because the Browns are playing better football than the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think the Jaguars are in the same spot they were in last year as one of the worst teams in all of football. Blaine Gabbert regressed in this game. He's continuing his slow decline back down to a below-average quarterback in this league. I thought maybe after the first 2 weeks, maybe Blaine Gabbert was starting to come around. Maybe he was starting to get it. No. He fooled me. Or he started to fool me. I wasn't sold on him then. I'm not sold on him now. And he looks to be getting worse as the weeks go by. Another bad game for him. No running game for Maurice Jones-Drew. He was effective, but when you're trailing for the duration of this game, for the majority of this game, hard to really stick with the running game. And the Jacksonville Jaguars they did what they do often. They turned the ball over too many times. The Bears, for the 2nd consecutive week, had 2 pick sixes. For the second consecutive week, those 2 pick sixes were turned in by Lance Briggs and Peanut Tillman. And the Bears busted this game open in the fourth quarter, you know, scoring 27 points in the final frame to take a commanding 40-3 lead and put this ball game away. And the Jacksonville Jaguars, they never stood a chance in this game. But I knew the Bears were going to allow them to hang around and think they had a shot. And that's what they did for 3 quarters till they finished sleepwalking, woke up, and decided to put the clamps down on the Jaguars. Did that, got a 40-3 victory, moved their record to 4-1. And it was all smiles out there. Brandon Marshall had a hell of a game, over 100 yards, about 12 catches. Matt Forte, over 100 yards. And the Bears could do no wrong in this football game once they turned it up. And the Jacksonville Jaguars, again, one of the worst teams in the league. No quarterback, no direction there. Hard for the Jacksonville Jaguars. If you're a fan of the Jaguars, hard for you to really be inspired by this team's play. Hard for you to see the future as being bright. Because there's not a lot there, especially at the quarterback position. I think you're going to be looking for a quarterback here in the near future. Jacksonville Jaguars fall to 1-4 in the season. Bears go to 1-4. Bears get the victory over the Jacksonville Jaguars, 40-3. Broncos, Patriots, big matchup of the weekend. Supposed to be, well, you know, one of the most highly touted matchups of the weekend. Of course, yeah, that goes without saying when you're talking about Manny, Brady, you know, going at it again for about the 7th or 8th time in the regular season, 13th time overall, including playoffs. It was a big matchup. And I wanted to find out who the Denver Broncos were in this football game. And I found out who they were. They're a team that when playing, and much like the Chargers, when playing, you know, lower to mid-level competition, they're probably going to win. They're going to beat teams that they're better than. They're going to beat the teams that are even or just slightly below them. They're going to give teams who are slightly above them a run for their money, maybe even beat them. But the upper echelon teams, they can't beat them. Too many mistakes from that Denver Broncos team. I'm finding out who they are. And it's a collective effort. When it's not Peyton Manning throwing 3 interceptions as he did against the Atlanta Falcons, when it's not Willis McGahee making mistake after mistake after mistake as he did in this ball game, then it's Demaryius Thomas fumbling like he did last week inexplicably against the Raiders, and as he did in this football game against the New England Patriots. That's what he does. Demaryius Thomas fumbles the football. Don't know why, because he's a great talent. That's evident. If you watch the game, he had himself a great ball game, but he fumbled the ball. And so you can't do that consistently if you want to win games in the National Football League. I told you can't turn the ball over. The Broncos turned the football over too many times against the Patriots. Peyton Manning played a heck of a ball game. He did nothing wrong in this game. His play warranted a Denver Broncos victory. But the rest of the team was not on board. But again, when you got guys like Willis McGahee, you know, dropping passes, you know, Demaryius Thomas fumbling the football, Willis McGahee fumbling the football. It's too many mistakes. Too many mistakes to overcome in a ball game where you knew you were going to have to score points because the Patriots had been scoring points of late. Tom Brady was his normal self, you know, spreading the ball all around the field. He found Wes Welker a number of times, especially on one of their first scoring possessions. He might have found Welker 4 or 5 times on that possession alone. I mean, Welker had 8 or 9 catches in the first half. And I think he ended up with 11, 12, or 13 of them to end the game. And so Wes Welker was everywhere. And, you know, Gronkowski's always a problem. Brandon Lloyd is, again, starting to acclimate himself into this offense. They're becoming the team that, you know, in 5 or 6 weeks from now, if this running game is legit and it's looking the part of a legitimate running game right now, but again, it's early. But they're looking like a team that in 5 or 6 weeks from now, if this running game is what we think it is, they're going to be one of the most scariest teams in the league because Brady and that passing offense is already hard to stop by itself without a running game. Without a running game, they're already hard to stop. You add in a running game with, Bolden, Stephen Ridley, and then you just sprinkle in a little bit of Shane Vereen, they're dangerous. Because now Brady can go play action fake. You got to respect the run. If you come up just a step, Brandon Lloyd's behind you. Gronkowski's behind you. It's going to be a tough task to stop this Patriots offense if you can't stop the run against them. And, Peyton Manning fumbled in this game as well. I mean, look, Peyton Manning held onto the ball too long. They took away one of his reads. He eyeballed it. It wasn't there. He needed to come off of it. He didn't come off of it fast enough. They got to him, forced a fumble. Patriots recover it. You can't make mistakes against the Patriots. You can't make mistakes in this league, period, if you think you're going to beat, upper echelon teams. And that's what the Broncos did. They made too many mistakes against the New England Patriots. Patriots took advantage. Again, the Broncos made a furious comeback, as they've done in every game they've played this season against a good football team. They played the Falcons. They played the Texans. Both of those games, they trailed by, 2 scores or more. Made furious comebacks to make it look close, but ultimately fell in the end. Did the same thing to the Patriots. We're down 31-7 at one point in this game. Thought the game was over. If you turned away and turned it back, the Patriots were only up 10 as the Broncos had cut into that lead and cut it to a 21-31 deficit. But again, turnovers reared their ugly heads, and they were able to get it done. And so the Patriots took care of business at home, ran the football effectively. Brady was his normal self, spraying the ball all around the field, being effective, not really making mistakes. They get the job done at home, 31-21 against the Denver Broncos, who I know who they are now. Broncos are now 2-3. Patriots are 3-2. And I know who the Broncos are now. They're a team that will beat mediocre teams, that will beat less than average teams, that will play teams that are slightly above average, tough. But when they get to the upper echelon teams, they can't compete with them. They're just not good enough. So now I know who they are. Thank you for revealing yourself to me. Because I had questions. You had answers for me on Sunday. I thank you for that. Moving right along. The Buffalo Bills travel out to San Francisco to take on the 49ers in what I had already deemed a laugher. I could have made this my sole survivor if I wanted to. But I didn't want to. I wanted to go ahead and take the Giants. I want to save the 49ers. But I knew that this was a 49ers victory. The Bills are done for the 2012 season. They're finished. They had their shot to make a move in the AFC East. They blew it. They had the Patriots on the ropes. Let the Patriots play rope-a-dope, and then Patriots beat the hell out of them in the second half. And they had confidence going into that game. It was false confidence because you had beaten the Browns and the Chiefs in consecutive weeks. But it was confidence nonetheless. And you let the Patriots take some of that confidence from you, the majority of it. And what little confidence you had left, I already said the 49ers were going to take that confidence, step on it, hand it back to you, and send you back on the plane with a nice butt whooping and have you lamenting all the way back home on that plane ride. I knew this was going to get ugly. I said this has the smell, it has the feel of a Bills debacle. Just a straight shellacking. I said that in the preview. And I waved to you. Bye, Bills. See you next year. Bye. But you didn't answer me. You thought, I'm not giving up yet. Who are these 49ers? They're not that good, are they? Well, you found out. And I said, going into this game, I thought the 49ers were going to explode for 26 whole points. 4 whole touchdowns. Well, you made a liar out of me, 49ers. And Bills. Got to give the Bills credit where it's due. You scored 6 whole touchdowns. 6. That's more than an explosion. That's earth-shattering. When did the 49ers score 40-plus points? They did it one time last year against Tampa Bay. They scored 48 last year against Tampa Bay. But you got to be a really bad team and play absolutely no defense to let the 49ers go off on you. But that's what the Bills are now. They're a team with no confidence. The 49ers took whatever confidence they had left, smashed it, handed it back to the Bills in 1,000 little small pieces. The Bills are done. They had their chance. Now they're going to descend in that division. I said that in the preview. They're going down, south, fast. They wasted money on Mario Williams and Mark Anderson to get pressure on the quarterback. Their pass rush is non-existent. It doesn't exist. They can't stop the run. Mario Williams and Mark Anderson aren't helping in that department either. And so you wasted your money there. You got young corners out wide in Aaron Williams and Stephon Gilmore. I think they'll come of age with time, but they're rookies. And in their second year, Williams in his second year, Gilmore a rookie, they're going to get baptized out there. You got good safeties, but when you got young corners, won't call them bad. When you got young corners, I don't care how good your safeties are, you're going to get beat. And so this Bills team has issues everywhere. But I'm done with them. Bye, Bills. See you next year. Thanks for playing. Maybe next year. On the other hand, the 49ers, they were dominant in every aspect of the game imaginable. The Bills had two opportunities, count them, two opportunities to make this a ball game early on. Leotis McKelvin returned a punt return for a touchdown. Got called back. So Leotis McKelvin said, all right, not going to return it for a touchdown, but I'm going to return this into 49ers territory. I'm going to stop it right around the 40, 42-yard line. At least get a field goal, get something out of this. Let's get something positive going and get a little bit of momentum. So he gave you a jump start. The Bills proceeded to get one first down and go absolutely backwards after that, forcing themselves to have to punt. That was it. That was the last opportunity that they had in this ball game. After that, straight downhill from there. Alex Smith played a near flawless football game. And when I say near flawless, I'm talking about up over 300 yards passing, only about 5 or 6 incompletions. We got 2 receivers over 100 yards. We got 3 receivers with catches of over 35 yards or more in this game. 4 ball carriers for the 49ers had runs of over 15 yards. Alex Smith, Colin Kaepernick, Kendall Hunter, and of course Frank Gore all went for runs of over 15 yards or more in the game. Frank Gore went over 100 yards. Kendall Hunter was not that far behind. And so they were gashing him on the ground. You look at the receiving corps. I already talked about how they got him in the air. And Crabtree had a field day, probably his best game as a professional in the National Football League. He was one of 3 receivers who caught passes of over 35 yards. The other 2 being Kyle Williams and Mario Manningham. And so they dominated this football game. Every facet. Start to finish. And when you have that happen to you, you get the score of 45-3. Buffalo stinks. And they deserve to get drubbed. And I expect more of the same from the Bills. If they get another team down the line that's any good, I expect them to get beat down just like this again. Because they're finished. They're done. So the Bills dropped to 2-3 on the season. And the 49ers moved to 4-1 and a first place tie with the Arizona Cardinals in the NFC West division. Moving on to another game that I thought all they had to do was show up and play good football and they were going to win. The Tennessee Titans took on the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota Vikings undefeated at home this year, playing really good football. And again, very, very quietly, the Minnesota Vikings are 3-1. Coming into this game, after this game, if they played Vikings football, they were going to be 4-1. And I said that. This Titans team, not a very good football team, especially on the road. Now you're minus Jake Locker, the one person on your team that you knew could try to make something happen. He's gone. Insert Matt Hasselbeck, some veteran presence, veteran leadership. But that's only going to take you but so far. They showed up. They gave, admirable effort early on. Kept it close. But it was only a matter of time before the Minnesota Vikings jumped on these guys and jumped on them good. Chris Johnson did his best disappearing act as he showed up last week, disappeared this week. 15 carries, 26 yards, so he's back to his old tricks, I guess you can say. They turned the ball over a couple times, made some mistakes. Vikings took advantage of it, and before you knew it, the score was 23-0. I mean, both teams started slow in this game. We knew the Vikings were the better team. And I'm starting to lean towards Percy Harvin being the most valuable player on this team. Not the best player. I think that's reserved for Adrian Peterson. But I think he's the most valuable player to this Minnesota Vikings team. He does so much for them. He runs the football out of the backfield. We know what he is as a receiver. And he's dangerous in the return game. I think what he brings to the table is irreplaceable in that Vikings offense, special teams, and team, period. And that's why the Vikings would hear none of it in the offseason when he wanted to be traded. And I see why. I didn't think they would be at this point, so I was like, hey, Percy, I hear you. I feel your pain because y'all going to be a bad team this year. You're going to be one of the best players on a bad team. You didn't want to be in that situation. I was wrong. They were right. You were wrong. And I'm glad you decided to just be quiet and play football because it's paying dividends for this Minnesota Vikings team. And I thought the game turned on. Hasselbeck threw an interception. Vikings took advantage of it. Then Chris Johnson turned around and fumbled. And that was it. And Vikings took advantage of those mistakes, scored points. And like I said, at one point in this game, it was 23-0. And the Titans aren't scoring, 23, 24 unanswered points. Give me a break. The game was over. Vikings tack on another touchdown late. And Titans do as well, and the score ends up 30-7. Minnesota Vikings taking care of business at home, running their record to 3-0 at home, running their record to 4-1 overall, and the Titans dropped to 1-4 on the season. And again, they're not a very good football team. Not a very good football team. I don't know what direction they're going in. What's your identity? Are you throwing the football? Are you running the football? Because I don't know what you're trying to do. Why is Chris Johnson only getting 15 carries? I don't care. Why does he only have 26 yards rushing? Is your offensive line that bad? Is he not pressing the hole? I'm not going to talk about that anymore because I've talked about that ad nauseum. You're not a good football team anyway. So whether he goes for $141 like he did a week ago or he goes for 26, the end result is probably going to be a Titans loss either way. So Titans 1-4, Vikings 4-1. Vikings are tied atop that NFC North division with the Bears. And again, they're playing some really good football. They're not a joke. They're not a game. And with that Packers loss, they are slowly starting to win me over as the second team coming out of that division to go to the playoffs. Now, I'm going to reserve judgment on that. I want to see them play the Packers first. And I want to see them play the Packers at home. Because I know the Packers can beat them at home. I want to see the Vikings play the Packers at home. What do you do when you have the Vikings, or excuse me, you have the Packers come into the dome? Are you going to take care of business, or are you going to let the Packers come in there and find a way to get a W in Minnesota? That's what I really want to see. Because that's going to be the difference for me. If you can beat the Packers, I don't care if you beat them in Lambeau or you beat them at home. If you can beat the Packers, you're going to be the second team in that division to go to the playoffs. I think that's going to be the difference for you because you're playing such good football. You're not turning it over. You're playing sound defense. You're giving maximum effort on special teams. And you're winning 2 out of the 3 facets of the game just about every time you step on the field, if not all 3. And so the Vikings are 4-1. Titans are 1-4. 2 teams going in totally different, totally opposite directions. Last but not least, we find ourselves on the Sunday night matchup as we go down the slate of games on Sunday. And I had already said in my preview that I was going to wash my hands clean of the San Diego Chargers if they couldn't get it done on the road against the New Orleans Saints, a defense that couldn't stop anybody. They couldn't stop me and 10 of my friends if we got on the field and had a week to prepare for the New Orleans Saints defense. They're not good on defense. And this Chargers offense can be explosive. They have the playmakers on offense to get it done. And I expected them to go out there and get it done. And for about 3 quarters, they had me sold on the fact that they were going to do just that. They started the game off slow, but they finally got it on track, went down, scored a touchdown. Rivers threw a beautiful pass in double coverage to Robert Meacham, who made a great play on the ball in his return game to New Orleans. But they let Breeze come right back down the field, strike to tie Johnny Unitas' record, which we knew he was going to do. So they tied it back up at 7. But the Chargers had every opportunity to really extend the lead in this game, and they didn't do it. They didn't take advantage of opportunities. They got in the red zone, got bogged down, and had to settle for field goals. And when you're playing the Saints, even though they're struggling, even though their defense stinks, you got to score touchdowns because the Saints on offense can still score points. They're 0-4 because the Saints defense stinks, not because the Saints offense stinks. And so you had to know that coming into this game. Score touchdowns. You didn't do so. But all that aside, there was a point in this game when you were up 24-14. And you went to halftime with a 17-14 lead, came out in the second half, got the ball first, drove down the field, got another 7, took a commanding 10-point lead. And at this point, I'm saying, put them away. Put them away. You caught them napping. Meacham got behind the defense. You go up top to them, and you take a 10-point lead. Put them away. They're reeling. The defense goes out, stops Drew Brees, gets you back to football, and you do nothing with it for several possessions. Then the Saints wake up on offense. Drew Brees gets it done, takes them down the field. They score a touchdown. Now the momentum is starting to turn in favor of the Saints. The crowd gets back into the game. It starts to snowball, and you do what the San Diego Chargers do routinely. Fall flat on your face when the pressure starts to mount. And so you lose to the Saints, giving them their first win in a game that you should have been able to win. You don't get it done. And so I wash my hands clean with you. I'm done. My hands are washed. I've dried them off. I'm done with you, San Diego. You play anybody that can score points, that plays a tad bit of defense, not picking you. And I don't care if I lose 6 games the rest of the season, not picking you because I thought you were going to lose and you win. I'm not doing it. I'd rather go down in a heap, in a cloud of dust. I'd rather go down picking the opposition than to pick you and allow you to pull my pants down and have me laughed at and pointed at. Tired of it. You do this to me every single year. Won't allow it to happen anymore, though. You play the Chiefs? Yeah, I pick you. You play the Raiders? Yeah, I pick you. You play the Broncos? No, I will not pick you because I don't trust you. As far as I'm concerned, you're as average gets. That was a team you were supposed to beat. You had them on the ropes. You knew who they were. And you let them off the hook. So I'm done with you. Good win for the New Orleans Saints. They're off the schneid. They're 1-4 on the season. Peyton, Joe Vitt, and Mickey Loomis all looked sappy in the box last night. And honestly, I could care less about those guys. They made a lot of pan shots on them last night, all in their faces, showing them talking. And you knew they were going to do that. But they all got what they deserved because they all knew about what was going on and did nothing about it. So, the Saints are 1-4 on the season. You let Drew Brees tell it. This is the beginning of a turnaround for them. Don't buy it. They still don't stop anybody on defense. They're still not a good football team. Still too many mental breakdowns and mental lapses on the defensive end. And I don't know if that offense is going to be good enough to sustain drives and score points and outscore the opposition when that defense that they have is on the field. I just don't think the Saints can outscore every team that they play this season. And they can't lose too many more games. They would have to run off, you know, the next 9 out of 11 to have a chance. Don't see it happening. And so, Saints get their first win. Kudos to them for beating a San Diego Chargers team that is an absolute joke. And the Chargers go to 3-2, and I washed my hands clean of them. They're still leading atop the AFC West because that division is garbage. But I think the Broncos will ultimately catch them, pass them, and leave them in the dust. Only one team is making the playoffs from that division. So either you win the division or you go home. And I think the Chargers are going to go home because they don't need to go anywhere because they don't play well enough as a team when the pressure begins to mount. They fold. They crumble. And I'm done with them. And I hope Norv Turner doesn't get fired, but he will. And he probably needs to, because if this continues to happen every single year, you have to look at the head coach. And I don't think it's all his fault, but somebody got to take the blame. And if you're going to allow your team to fall flat on their face every single year, then it has to be your fault. Has to. I know you're a great offensive mind. I've seen you work magic with not a lot of talent. And so, offensively, you get it. But I think you just need to be an offensive coordinator. I think that's what it all boils down to, is that you're great on the offensive side of the football, but when it comes to defense and controlling games, Phillip Rivers was fussing at you, and rightfully so, because you decided to kick a 55-yard field goal with Nick Novak, who is not your starting field goal kicker, who is not Nate Kaeding, when you should have just punted the football. Now, it didn't backfire on you because your team forced the 3-and-out, got the football right back. But if you forced that same 3-and-out and the Saints started that drive from, say, their 7-yard line, their own 7, you get prime field position and then right back in position to score points, right where you left off at. Instead, they punted the ball from about the 30, 37, 40-yard line and pinned you back into your own territory. And so, bad move. That's bad news for you. Norv Turner, San Diego Chargers, you go down to the New Orleans Saints, 24-31. You're now 3-2 on the season. New Orleans Saints go to 1-4 on the season, and you are still dead in that division. You're still dead in that division. You're still dead in the NFC, and you got a lot of work to do. If you want me to believe that you're a relevant player in the NFC, win 4 straight. Even your record up at 4-4, and then come back and talk to me. Then I'll address you as someone that has a legit shot in the NFC. But until then, you're still dead in the water, my friend. And that's going to do it for the weekend. That was us going slate skating. Slate skating, we went slate skating. Slate skating, we went slate skating. Up and down the slate of games that occurred on Sunday. But there is still yet one game to be decided in this week 5. And that sees the Houston Texans traveling to New York or New Jersey to take on the New York Jets. In a game that sees a struggling Jets football team reeling off of some massive injuries. San Antonio Holmes probably gone for the season. Darrelle Revis definitely gone for the season. Coming off of an absolute shellacking at home at the hands of the 49ers a week ago, 34-0. Playing against a team that is explosive on offense in the Houston Texans, undefeated on the season, 4-0, who smell blood in the water. This Texans team can score with the best of them. Past Texans teams have been excellent on offense. They've always been a very productive offense. But on defense, you probably could get them. Last year, they started to turn that around under Wade Phillips. Now they're bona fide on defense. They're one of the top-notch defenses in all of football. They can score with the best of them. And so now you're talking about one of the better teams, if not the best team in all of football. And so if you're the Jets, you go, oh, hell, what did we just get ourselves into? We got injuries. We don't know what we should do at quarterback. Our coach is questioning what he and the rest of the coaching staff need to do to get us to play better. We're in flux right now. And here comes this juggernaut Houston Texans team. What do? I tell you what you do. You move out of the way. If you stand in their way, they're going to steamroll you. Just casually move to the side. Now, you may get laughed at for that, but you'll still have your pride and dignity. If you actually try to stand up to these guys, get ran over, end up benching Mark Sanchez in this game, lose, 34-10, then it looks even worse. But if you move casually out of the way, Sanchez is still your quarterback. You score about 17 points, give up 34 still, but make it competitive. The score is 27-17 heading into the fourth quarter. You score no points in the fourth quarter. They score an extra touchdown to put it out of reach for good measure. You'll take a 34-17 loss that looks somewhat competitive. So just move out of the way. Just step to the side. Give them the old-fashioned Antonio Cromartie O-leg tackle. Move out of the way. You stand in the way, and Arian Foster is going to run all over you. Ben Tate is going to run all over you. Matt Schaub is going to find Andre Johnson after Arian Foster and Ben Tate run all over you. When he's not finding Andre Johnson on play action fake, he's going to find Owen Daniels on play action fake. When he's not finding Owen Daniels or Andre Johnson on play action fake, he's going to find Kevin Walter on play action fake. So whatever you decide to do, it's probably not going to work. And I wouldn't be surprised if you stood up and defended yourself and didn't embarrass yourself on national television. But I highly doubt it. It's highly unlikely that you stand up for yourself and actually have a good showing tonight. I think this is the last game for Mark Sanchez. After this game, you're going to feel like you need to do something. You need to make a drastic change to infuse some life into this New York Jets football team. Only thing that you could do to possibly do that and really give yourself a realistic shot to win is to put Tim Tebow in. Tim Tebow is the same guy that we saw last year. Nothing's changed. He's not a better passer. And, he's not going to make, a huge difference in terms of, guys making plays in the secondary in terms of receivers getting down the field and making plays. But what he is going to do is make your running game a lot better because you're going to have to respect Tim Tebow running the football. That's going to help Sean Green in that running game. It's going to allow the Jets to play a brand of football that more suits and more fits what Rex Ryan wants to do as the head coach. Run the football, play ground and pound, keep the game close, give yourself a chance to win at the end. I don't think this Jets defense is as bad as we think it is. I just think it's being put in precarious situations, time and time again being put on the field after the offense goes 3 and out, being worn down, and being put in situations where they can't succeed. Now, this Jets defense is not the Jets defense from 2009. It's not the Jets defense from 2008. But what this Jets defense is a solid defense that, if given the opportunity to stay in ball games, will play toe-to-toe with the other team's defense and keep this team in the ball game. If Tim Tebow, who we know will come in, he won't turn the football over. He's going to make good decisions with the football. And he's not going to score a lot of points. But what he is going to do is not turn the football over, not put the defense in terrible situations where their back is against the wall. And he's going to give this Jets team a chance to win in the fourth quarter. That's all you can ask for if you're the Jets. Because right now, you haven't had a chance to win in the fourth quarter in about 3 games. And so, you just want a chance. Don't think you'll have a chance to do that tonight either. But I will say, I think this is going to be it for Mark Sanchez. If he comes out, has another one of these lackluster performances where he's sporadic, inconsistent, 16 of 31, 197 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 or 3 interceptions, he's got to sit down. We've seen this script before. We've seen this movie. We know how it ends. Time to change up and put another actor in and see if he can produce a better movie on the field. And so that's how I think this game's going to go. I think the Texans are going to run the football. They're going to pass the football because the Jets are going to turn the football over and be very unproductive on offense, putting the Jets defense in bad situations. Texans offense is going to take advantage of it. I don't think this is going to be a blowout, but I think the Texans are going to win 24-13 in a game that's not as close as the score indicates. Texans are going to run their record to 5-0. The Jets are going to be 2-3, and they're going to be looking to make a quarterback change. I believe they have a bye week next week coming up. Perfect time to make a quarterback change if you're going to do it. Sit Mark Sanchez down. If he has another bad ball game, if he plays solid, leave him in. Because I don't think that everything is his fault. But he's a lot to blame of what's going on. He has a lot of that to fall on his shoulders. And so, Texans 24, Jets 13. Texans go to 5-0. Jets fall to 2-3. That's what I think the outcome of tonight's game is going to be. And I have the Texans winning tonight. I believe they're going to get it done. And that should get me to 9 wins, which is very disappointing because I shouldn't be at 9-5 this week. At minimum, I should have won 10 games. I blame the Packers. I blame the Bengals for their losses and my demise because the Packers were up by 18 in this game, 21-3, against a team that is not very good, against a team that they should have been able to put away, and they just didn't. They didn't get it done, and the Packers aren't who we thought they were. Meanwhile, the Cincinnati Bengals are exactly who I thought they were, and they let me down. But they didn't let me down too far because I was never that high on them in the first place. And so they lost a game at home to a team they should have beat. And so I lost 2 games that I feel like I should have won. Nonetheless, I lost 5 games this week. All 5 of these games I felt confident about. I told you that I was going with my head over my heart on 2 picks. My head was right. My heart would have failed me. And so I did the right thing. And that's why I'm not talking to you today, at 7-7, begging for the Texans to come through with a victory just to get me over 500. Instead, I'm, 8-5 with a chance to go to 9-5. But it's not double figures. It's not double digits in wins. And so I'm not satisfied. I'm disappointed. Nonetheless, I'll take this as a lesson learned. I'm figuring out more about these teams as each week passes. And like I said, this is a week-to-week league. It's a very fluid league. And so you just never know from week to week. And so that's a touchdown. I just tapped on that extra point. What I was just talking about was the extra point for the day. And so I'll leave you with this. This is an extra point. This is a 2-point conversion. I watched the Broke special on Thursday night, as I said I was going to. We didn't have time to talk about it Friday. Don't have time to talk about it today. We are going to talk about it tomorrow. Guarantee it. Put that on your docket. It's coming up tomorrow. We're going to talk about it extensively. And so be on the lookout for that on Tuesday episode, as well as the recap of what happened tonight on Monday Night Football. We should have a lot to talk about because I think the Jets are going to have to make a quarterback change after this game is done. We'll see, though. The Jets might stand up. Wouldn't surprise me if they stood up, rose to the occasion. They're not going to win. Not saying that them standing up involves winning a football game. That means they just made this game a lot more competitive, and it bought Mark Sanchez another week as starter of the New York Jets. But we'll see. But all that aside, that's going to be an episode. So I want to see you back here. Same time. Same place. And then for myself and all you out there viewing in, have a good one. See you tomorrow. Enjoy the game tonight.